our mission is to bring together Indian origin founders, innovators, and practitioners together for fostering collaboration and growth and impact on US and beyond. And our vision is that we have a thriving ecosystem for cybersecurity practitioners and innovators uh, to shape the global cybersecurity and to facilitate collaboration growth. We have chapters, and the objective of our chapters is to expand social catalyst membership in a meaningful and mutually beneficial way. Next slide, Millie. We have some exciting upcoming events. We have our first Chicago chapter meeting coming up on May 14th. So if you're in and around Chicago area, I highly, highly recommend you attend that. It's fun evening with food, an evening where you collaborate with your peers. Our next monthly webinar, please look out for it. It's going to be on May 21st. And if you're going to be at Gartner event, Gartner SRM, we have our DC chapter meeting around the same time alongside the Gartner meeting. So look out for that one as well. With that, stepping into the webinar on application security in 2026, the case for speed versus rigor. Um, I have a really, really distinguished line of panelists with me, and an interesting perspective too. You have one a CISO from an overall overarching perspective of risk and managing cyber risk, and then you have somebody who puts together solutions, is architect and a solutions architect on a security solutions architect, Will. And then we have a founder who has successfully founded a couple of different companies, in this case, founder of application security. So we have three different perspectives that we're going to look at as we look at the case for rigor over speed on application security in 2026. Um, with that, I'm going to ask the panelists to say hi, introduce themselves, one thought on the topic in front of them, and then we'll go into overall discussing different perspectives from these thought leaders. So maybe we'll kick off with you. First one on my panel, Will.
Okay. My name is Will Stroud. I'm coming to you from PCG as the Senior Manager of Security Engineering and Architecture. Um, just thinking about the overall topic that we're going over today, my current take is everyone's kind of talking about how is AI kind of accelerating development. And it's really not a question of if it's going to accelerate or if it's accelerating, it is happening. But I think when it comes to the cyber perspective, we're sort of looking at it not quite the correct way, which I think we should be asking an important question, which is, are we scaling our ability to control that acceleration in a manageable way? So as we talk about the topic and go forward, I think that's really where my point of view is going to be, is as it gets faster, do we have the correct controls in place to manage it and deliver at the speed and understand what we're delivering at the speed that we're currently and will be delivering at? So, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Will. Next on my screen, Sumit.
Hi, thanks, Harsha. Hi, I'm Sumit. I'm the CISO for Get Insured, and I oversee the security and privacy across the organization and risk management. On the topic, I think, yes, I kind of second what William is saying. With the speed of development, there has to also be the speed of how we secure that code, right? If AI is generating the code, we also need something equally fast to be able to respond back or respond to review those code that is being deployed and kind of looking through that, being able to securely deliver the code. And until the secure code is the fastest way to ship, unless the business realize that, I think this won't change. Like, you have to understand that the uh, just generating the code and meeting business objectives is not the goal here. Like, the only way to deliver something meaningful and secure is the fastest way to ship the code. So that, I think, that has to be included. That perspective, the business has to understand that, that we have to meet both objectives before we deliver something.
I'm going to come back. That's a great point, Sumit. I'm going to come back to you maybe through midway. I don't have a specific question around it initially, but as you mentioned that, I have a question around it as soon as you mentioned it. But thank you, Sumit. Praveen?
Yeah, hi, this is 𝗵𝗵𝗁𝗂𝗃. I'm the founder of 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 AI. Here we focus on securing Gen AI and agentic AI. Solution basically is a platform for securing full AI lifecycle, including agents and MCP. And from agents writing your code to the MCP server they interact with, we protect all prompt, all responses, and agent conversations. I'm going to so regarding the topic today, I think it's not about better or worse. I would say it's a different and faster what we are looking at right now. The development has fundamentally changed, which comprises the entire risk life cycle. So we need to be now systemic. This problem is systemic and fast, so we need to be stop using the traditional security models that cannot manage AI and agentic AI development and switch to more look at the security infrastructure and make it more automated, more adaptive, and more agentic. We'll discuss more later. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Praveen. So before we get into the conversation and get thoughts from these leaders here, for the people in attendance, we have a quick poll for you just to set the baseline, just to understand the baseline of where each and every one of you guys are at. We have a couple of quick poll questions, three poll questions that are going to be on your screen. Millie, over to you on the poll questions. So first poll, in your organization, how long does a high severity known vulnerability typically sit before remediation? Uh, Once you make a quick choice, we'll go to the next question. All right. Do we have the results, Millie? Do you want to move to the next question? Under 7 days. Wow. For some under 7 days, and um, there seems to be longer than 3 months also. Quite a lot of traction there. Great. Thank you, Millie. Next question. Where does the primary ownership of supply chain risks sit in your organization right now? Is it with AppSec team, engineering team, individual dev teams? Is it shared with no clear owner? Or we're still figuring it out? All right. Engineering team. And so there is a good number of shared ownership as well, with a small percentage on the AppSec team. Interesting. Next question, Millie. And how much of the code generation at your organization today is AI assisted? And this is interesting with companies saying, aka Anthropic, 90% of their code is AI generated, or not even AI assisted, it's AI generated. But it'll be interesting to see the perspective of our participants today. And I think Google says 50%, right? But anyway, wow. Less than 10%. Light use is, it looks like light use is the highest here. Almost half of the participant is light use. That's where we have as well. But anyway, thank you, Millie. Thank you for the poll. Moving on. So we said Axios and Cloud instantly both happen on the same day. What is, and Sumit, this question is to you. I want to start off with, and Will uh, would definitely be willing to pitch in, sure. But primarily, Sumit, to you, what is most alarming as a CISO? That attackers are exploiting the trust chains, or that internal teams are shipping code that they didn't into, that configuration file mistake in Cloud as an example, right? So,
Yeah.
what is more alarming to you in these two?
So thank you. I think the attackers are always going to kind of try and exploit vulnerabilities, right? So that's always there. That's always been the given. Um, what is alarming is essentially the right. So the teams basically breaking their own safeguards if they exist, right? We need to make sure that that there are proper safeguards before rolling out the code into production. And if those safeguards are being broken internally, like you are trying to deploy, as I said earlier, if you're trying to build the code faster and deploy a product without properly going through your safeguards and checklists, um, I think in the race to be the first or deploy first, sometimes those get neglected, and I think that's probably for me a bigger concern than external bad actors trying to get in and exploit the vulnerabilities within your code, because that has always existed. There has always been open CVs, open vulnerabilities that we are always trying to chase behind. But if you have something internally, a process that's built out, and people are trying to safeguard or go around it, I think that's the main problem.
Yeah, and if you ignore the safeguards, if you're missing simple set practices, you're then opening up more holes, more vulnerabilities in your ecosystem that can be now
Right.
easily exploited. So on
Right.
that topic, going back to um, one of the thoughts you were mentioning in the beginning, Sumit, I was saying I wanted to ask you, and this is where in my mind, it was fitting right in. As a practitioner, as you are thinking about, hey, I want to make sure business is shipping code at a breakneck speed. I want to make sure security is up to par with it. We are as fast in protecting it. It's a two-part question. It's more about one, do you see a friction as you're telling the business, hey, I want you to go fast, but I want to make sure our guardrails and our framework is followed as code is being shipped, as your GTM, you want the GTM to be really fast, you want
Right.
your cycles to be really fast. Do you do you see a friction from the leadership one? And going back to your engineers missing the guardrails, if you're shipping fast, are the guardrails being ignored and missed?
Yes,
Even
I
from the
think
security team, this is now even from the security team because you want to scale up your security team fast.
correct. Correct. So I think, yeah, there is always a certain type of friction between, the business and the InfoSec. I think um, depending on the industry that you're in, they could consider you like a roadblock or, an enabler. So I think that whole mindset has to change within the business. And, when I join a company, or like if I'm trying to help somebody out, that's the first thing that you have to kind of make aware. Like, we are not here to put a roadblock in what you're trying to do. We're just trying to make sure that we enable you, provide enough information that we are, and make you aware of the risk, right, of releasing something without going through a proper process. And that's always a challenge, and making and educating your board, educating your leadership around, go to market without proper safeguards versus what's the challenge, what's the risk between going to market without proper safeguards or with proper safeguards. So as I said, like earlier, um, unless the business realizes that the fastest way to the market is a secure code and not the other way around, you can't overcome that challenge. If your internal safeguards break, if your system breaks itself, then that's a design problem. That's a process problem that we have to figure out. And that is the uh, key change in the mindset from a business perspective.
Awesome. Thank
Sometimes it is easier because of the cost, financial obligations or risk associated financially, especially in my sector, like I'm healthcare. So, there's a huge fine, there's whole compliance requirements, and there are huge fines either doled out by the federal government or the state governments. So that becomes an incentive to then, push the business to do the right thing. But we also have to understand that the infosec teams have to be able to respond to the breakneck speed the code is being developed at this point in time. So if an AI is developing the code, we also need something equally fast to be able to respond to those threats coming out of the code, right? So I'll
Yeah,
just
yeah, I agree. Awesome. Thank you, Sumit. Will, an extension of the um, almost same question to you. Now, you as a solutions architect, velocity pressure, AI-generated code going into CI/CD pipelines, the volume outpacing the review capacity, fragmented tooling ownership, and risk tolerance that treats known issues as acceptable debt. I know you made your stance clear at the beginning around the same problem. Can you dig more into how you mentioned this thought process to me a couple of times? So I think that it's really important uh, in this view of what Smith is saying. So with the problems I just mentioned, how does the solution you're proposing uh, help security teams scale fast and make sure you're shipping secure code?
So what we've been doing in information systems IT is really optimizing for code generation. We're thinking of ways and more ways to generate code as fast as possible. What we haven't really been doing is building systems to validate that code. AI didn't really create this problem. It's amplifying it. Don't get me wrong. It's
Yeah.
making it even faster, but it didn't really create the problem. This is something that's been going on for quite a while. More code is being written. Now with AI, a lot of it's not as deeply understood as it used to be because a person may have not have written this particular whole set of code. And we haven't really scaled capacity to review that code. There's no way that we can review all that code by humans. Um, so what we kind of need to do is, in my opinion, have someone who is not really have someone or systems where it's their job to really be accountable for what ships. It can't be the people developing those things. It can't be the people necessarily even deploying, but we really need to put a focus on the validation of what's going out and making sure it's actually what we intend it to be and that it operates in the manner and secure in the manner that we expect. It's also about mitigating risk. One of the things we have, and we'll probably talk about this a bit, is we have a lot of visibility these days about what's wrong. But what are we doing with that knowledge? Do we have owners of that risk? Do we have owners of that remediation? Are we just having a long list, of backlog of forever of vulnerabilities that last, or are we actually working to fix those problems? And the other thing is to use that visibility to enforce decisions, not just make a list of things that we probably should fix someday. And creating that infrastructure that enforces that rigor. And I know that's a word that's in the title, as opposed to relying on the people that are developing the code or even the code generation to do that. It's the infrastructure built in a manner that enforces that security. So
Yeah, thank you, Will. That hits home with me as well. So you mentioned something important. Somebody should be accountable and responsible for the make sure what ships is shipping um, is secure, has been fully verified. And this is to all of you guys. Who, in your opinion, who owns this? Is it a CISO? Is it the engineering leadership? Is it business leadership? Is it the regulatory team? And maybe Sumit, this question is more to you. Uh, and who, Praveen, it's anybody who should own this? That because this is now fragmented. Somebody is developing the code, somebody is reviewing the code. Uh, uh, everybody siloed in their own? Who's taking at your organizations in your thought process? Who should be owning this to the point that Will brought up? Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah,
Praveen.
yes, sure. I would say the ultimate owner is going to be engineering leadership because, as you know, security team can set policies, but they cannot really enforce them without breaking the developer's workflow. So, especially when security becomes the gate rather than an enabler, it gets bypassed. We know that, right? So we need some kind of incentive structure where the cost of a breach is as visible to the engineering organization as the cost of missed product deadline. So they need to prioritize that. But also they need to think about how they can do secure by design. All right, you can embed a lot of in AI, especially in the AI world, and you can have pretty significant amount of, I would say, telemetry as well as some kind of, you can say, security code that you can embed. For example, there is a new concept of in agentic AI world, there's a concept of agent governance toolkit that you can embed with every agent that you have. It can self-govern itself. Like it can, even kill switch is available as well. So I would say that security has to be by design, but also ownership has to be with engineering, in my opinion.
So I take that one step back to what Will was saying. How does the accountability play out here? I agree with what Will was saying before, right? This problem has been there. AI is just accelerating this problem. The security teams, Sumit, you can pitch in here if you want to. You have always been, for years now, even before AI coding was even a thing, shift left, start uh, scanning your code, reviewing your code. You're submitting these findings to engineering leaders, and you are sitting there with them in the design discussions for secure by design. But engineering has always focused on delivering their product fast. They have been traditionally ignoring the findings. There were known things. So, how does accountability play a role here if engineering has to take the ownership?
Yeah, I think
Any one of you can take this one.
uh, so. There are a couple of ways of doing it. There are obviously very different ways to skin a cat, but the uh, accountability has to lie with the department that's performing the action, like overall. But that accountability cannot be driven without enforcement, whether it is SLA driven, whether whatever measures you want to put in place, and that accountability or sorry, that enforcement has to come top down. Unfortunately, like it has to flow. The business side of the organization has to understand that that is the key to deliver a product into the market, that you cannot bypass. So it has to flow down, top down. And then, yes, the respective teams becoming accountable for it, the InfoSec enabling the other teams to make the right decisions, make things visible to them, educating like shift left again, design secure design codes and practices across the board. The security then becomes an enabler of all those stuff. But the risk there are a couple of different aspects and different roles that the InfoSec team overall plays. One, again, enabler with different departments, but also working with the business to make them understand that this is the way to go, that this is actually better for the business, and then making sure that the enforcement comes from top down.
So,
Thank you,
and I'll add
Sumit.
in, sorry, I'll add in
Yeah,
one
go ahead,
little
Will.
piece. While we
Yeah,
should shift left is very important, but with the way code is generated today and the way we build and deploy code, also that platform level becomes even more important than it's ever
right.
been. Having those correct controls at the platform level, enforcing that things that don't meet those requirements don't make it in there without some type of escalation and acceptance, just becomes even more important the way we're at the velocity that we're going. Just want to throw.
Right. I think that is the key point to understand. Like the infrastructure also plays a part with this, and then especially while as the infrastructure is being deployed with infrastructure as code. Again, that code is being written by AI, and that also needs to be validated. It also has to go through the same checks and balances.
Yep. To the point, all three of you are mentioning standard, secure by design, um, uh, uh, platform controls, guardrails. Um, if you have to off SBOM enforcement, SLSA levels, AI code review gates, remediation SLAs, we talked about all these. If you have to prioritize, pick one of all these, say I take one that will make my overall secure by design concepts better. And then I'll take one out that actually it's not adding much value. What would be the one you prioritize highly? What would be the one you deprioritize? I'm not saying one has to go out, but deprioritize between, I'll repeat, SBOM enforcement, SLSA levels, AI code review gates, and remediation SLAs. You have findings and remediations around those SLAs. What would you pick as the highest priority, and what would be the lowest priority of that list?
So,
Sorry.
sorry. No, go ahead.
No, go. No, go ahead. Go for it.
So I think, in my opinion, they're all important. There are, if I had to prioritize one thing among them, it'll probably be the SBOM enforcement. And the reason for that is visibility. Like if you can't get visibility into what's being deployed, what's going out, what's shipping, that creates a problem. So I think the SBOM enforcement is critical. And then once you have that SBOM enforcement, then you can put in checks and balances around that, making sure that you have, the right rigor um, to secure the code or product that's being shipped out.
Awesome. Thank you, Sumit.
I would,
Will, you're about to say, oh, sorry, Praveen, go ahead.
yeah, I would definitely agree with that. But also, I would go more automation, more agentic, obviously, because speed is critical here. And keeping the man in the loop for only critical decisions and not for very, everything. So, manual peer review, I will deprioritize. But AI code review, I would prioritize, especially make it, things are getting smarter now.
Makes sense. Will?
I would look at it a little different. One of the big things to me is an enforcement of release gates tied to like risk thresholds. Basically not shipping things that are high risk without some type of escalation or acknowledgement of the risk. And once again, documenting and basically agreeing that that's what needs to happen.
So you go with the review gates
Yeah, review
higher on.
gates.
Yeah.
And if you ask what
Cool.
deprioritization, this is a little different, but less tools. I know that sounds a little bit weird for a cyber guy to say, but I think one of the
Yeah.
things we run
No,
is
I,
we just
I,
want
I
more.
see where you're going. Yeah, yeah. I wish that was the case, Will. I wish that was the case. I don't
Yeah.
think you can get there, but okay.
Yeah.
So we have a quick poll before we move on to the next question. Millie, yeah, thank you, Millie. So who should ultimately be accountable when supply chain or release validation failure leads to a breach? Is it the engineering leadership, the development team that shipped it, platform tooling vendor? Is it shared, or is it the open source maintainer? And last but not the least, CISO. All right, we have results. Engineering leadership. Looks like Will, Praveen, most people are agreeing with you on this one. Cool. Thank you. All right, moving on to the next one. Uh, Sumit, this one is back to you. The Axios compromise and the Cloud Code incident are obviously very different in origin. One is adversarial, somebody compromised a maintenance account, and one is accidental, small miss on the developer's part. Does the distinction matter as a CISO when you are doing a post-incident review, or even with the entire RCA team? Or, does the RCA land in the same place no matter the origin of the incident?
No, I think it definitely matters, right? As I said, one is a process breakdown. The other one is somebody trying to exploit the CVs or vulnerabilities that exist in your application. And that has always been the norm, right? Like people have been trying to exploit and gain access and doing malicious things and trying to break the code. So from the remediation perspective, yes, I think there are different aspects that need to be triggered for those two events. And there could be some overlaps on process when you're talking about process breakdowns, at what level the process broke down. There could be overlap between different events, but I think fundamentally there is difference between people trying to work around the safeguards that you're putting in versus something slipping through the vulnerability scan or your scans and checkpoints. So those are two different things in my opinion, and they do require different.
How you would do the RCA with your team as you
Correct.
sit on it. Yeah,
Correct.
makes sense. Makes sense. Totally. Any other thoughts, Will, Praveen? You guys agree with what Smith was saying?
I'll actually come out a little different. I do think they are different, and I think maybe some of the remediation may be different, but at the end of the day, it was the same controls that kind of failed the organization when this happened, which is they obviously had the validation wasn't as good as it should have been, or the enforcement wasn't as good as it should have been. Whether that's the source of that vulnerability came from a vulnerability or it came from the engineering team pushing out something they didn't intend. The point is something went out the door that shouldn't have went out the door. Do we have the controls in place that should have caught it? And if we don't, how do we
But
fix
in
that?
this case, if you look at the control, in case of Axios, let's say it was a malicious 174,000 downloads have happened of the malicious packages that were released when this threat actor compromised, right? Uh, is it is the download of that package in your CI/CD overall process, is that the control failure for you? The check didn't happen, because it's a new package, your scanners didn't catch it, versus hey, it's a developer that missed two lines in the configuration file that made the code leak. Um, uh, in that case, would the same control be able to catch both? Same safeguard be able to catch both?
Now, in my mind, you're going to the matter of trust, which is, do you trust your internal person? Do you trust this package that you have that's available to everyone? This is something that I think sort of been brewing with when it comes to that open source software type things. That's kind of been brewing, at least in my mind, in the background for quite a while, which is we used to just kind of entrust it because we did. And I don't think we have that privilege anymore. I think that's something that's going to
Yeah.
change as we move
Yeah.
forward, where that implicit trust that we're giving to open source products, um, a lot of more people are going to be affected, going to get popped, for lack of better words, due to it. And that's not something we're used to. So I think at the end of the day, either way, you were trusting something that shouldn't have got trusted. How do you verify it? I'm not saying I
Yeah.
have the solution, but
Yeah, no,
it's
no.
a growing
And
problem.
yeah, yeah. It's a rapidly evolving problem in front of our eyes, and these are all different perspectives that help us learn and probably trigger ideas in our head to find a solution. But thank you both, Sumit and Will, on that topic. So we have a quick poll before we go on to the next question. But great discussion so far. I'm at least enjoying this one. So this is to our audience. In your experience, what is the biggest reason for secure development fundamentals breakdown? Is it velocity pressure from the leadership? Leadership is asking you, hey, everybody is developing code with AI. You guys need to ship fast. And security team, you guys need to stop being roadblocks, get out of the way. Tooling fragmentation, no single source of truth. Engineering teams not trained on security practices. Security is too slow, as I was mentioning before, seen as blocker. Known issues deprioritized as acceptable risk. AI generated code outpacing review capacity. So we'll looks like the audience voted by the time I finish speaking. Velocity pressure. Wow, that's unanimous. Cool. All right. So moving on. Next question. Uh, we talked about known issues left unaddressed as a failure mode. And Will, I want to start with you on this one because this is something that we've been talking since the beginning, right? It's a big problem. It is a problem that existed pre-AI. It's not AI created problem, and now AI is exacerbating it. Uh, but most organizations have hundreds of open CVs at any given time. What's the difference between acceptable risk management and negligence? And Sumit, as a CISO, once Will shares, I want you also to pitch in your thoughts on this one.
So to me, the two pieces to it. The first is there's a difference between understanding and accepting a risk, which is an educated thing to do, versus ignoring it and saying we'll just fix it later. That we'll just fix it later type of view, I think, is going to rapidly die with the rate of change that's going on and the amount of code being generated. The other thing is tying actual gates to fixing it. So are we tying who owns this risk when we accept it? Who owns the remediation of it? Who owns the compensating controls of it? So it's more than just saying, yes, we know of a CVE exists, we accept it. It's, well, how are we mitigating that? Who owns it? When are we going to be able to close it if we're able to close it? If we're not able to close it, is it something we're willing to live with, affirmatively, as opposed to once again, like I said, just putting on a list of ever-growing backlog of things that need to get fixed. And that's one of the key things, and that's where I move into the platform stuff is, if we can't fix that, are we compensating at the platform level? Have the correct people been educated on what that risk actually means to the organization, as opposed to just getting a long list? If you give your CISO a long list of vulnerabilities, what are they really going to do with it? It's to have we actually translated that into business risk and having people understand what does this actually mean for the organization. Things like that.
Thank you, Will. So in essence, you're saying you can't really throw things under the rug and assume the problem has gone away. You have to actually surface this, understand what you're facing, and
Yes,
if you have to delay it in an educated manner rather than just throw it under the rug. It's going to be there.
yeah. This is a little off, but on topic. One of the ones I've always loved being in cyber. I think we've all dealt with this, where they say, "Why do you keep finding making new findings?" And we're like, "No, we don't make findings. They were there, whether or not you acknowledge them. Us knowing about them is actually a good thing, as opposed to them, as you said, being under the rug and us not acknowledging the risk that we're actually taking." So.
Yeah, and we had an appropriate poll, and we only have 15 minutes left on the. So I want to pay attention to the clock. We have a ton of topics to get through, but the question is really appropriate. Uh, for the audience, does your organization have a formal enforced SLA for remediating critical CVEs with consequences for missing it? Um, so take your pick in there real quick. I think we might have to skip a few questions I had in mind because we want to give some time to the audience to answer any questions. But let's see. Once we have answers on these questions, we'll move on. Cool. Let's see what are enforced with escalation. Wow. Cool. documented but rarely enforced is something I was uh, hoping to see at least a couple of audience members, but interesting. All right, moving on. Um, so here I'm going to, because we have a few minutes left, I'm going to pick questions at will now on what I had in mind. So we'll save on time. Um, so AI coding tools accelerate output, but they also accelerate the introduction of unreviewed code. Are security teams keeping pace with the review capacity? Sumit, you were mentioning this in the beginning about review capacity and keeping pace. Um, are we building a growing blind spot, as Will was saying before? We just continue to throw things under the rug and stop it, continue to ignore things. So maybe Sumit, we'll start off with you on it.
Sure. Um, so I think generally the gap is increasing. The blind spot is increasing with the speed that the code is being developed. But the other aspect of that is to acknowledge that and kind of figure out a solution to that problem, right? The first thing is to acknowledge, to make sure that the um, all parties understand and acknowledge that there is a gap. Um, and I think that that's the key piece is like, making sure that everybody understands that there's a gap so we can collectively come back and kind of work through this. Humans reviewing that code at the speed that the AI is generating code is simply not the solution, not an answer anymore, right? It's not going to be humans reviewing these codes and code anymore. But there are challenges that get presented with that, like hallucination and other things that come into play. It's not just simply saying, "Hey, I have fixed all my CVs and I'm done." Right? But what are there other functional issues being created by that code that a threat actor could leverage to then gain access to the application, to the environment, other things. And I think that piece right now, in my opinion, is the biggest gap. Um, like checking through for those hallucinations that are coming through the codes, whether these are 3,000 extra lines of code, what is that code doing to be able to review and respond to that? Um, we have AI responding to the CVs and say, hey, this is my SBOM, this is my package. Put gate checks around that and say, hey, this, because that's a known quantity, right? That's a known quantity. You can check against different vulnerability databases. You can go and say, hey, this is a vulnerable package. This is available. Do everything. Now you have Mythos coming in, right? And other tools from OpenAI and others who can go in and say, hey, these are the exploits that are available in your environment. But who's checking for to make sure there is no extra code in there? There are no backdoors in the application that's being developed by AI. And I'll just leave it with that thought. Like that's the huge gap in my mind.
Yeah, I agree, Sumit. So I'll throw a very unpopular or popular famous topic here. Does the news of Mythos, the scary news we've been hearing, the good news we've been hearing, as an example, Firefox fixed 271 bugs, I think, in 1 week, released because of the help of Mythos. And obviously, Firefox probably was part of the Glasswing project. I forget the 40 companies which are part of Glasswing. Does that raise hope in you guys' mind? Are so something like that is going to help you speed up your own scanning detection mechanisms. I'm not saying Mythos directly, but something. So the news of Mythos, does it raise hope that hey, we are going to have tools that will help us be up to par to be able to scale as fast as the code creation is scaling? Does it give you guys any hope, any sort of futuristic solution mindset when you think about Mythos news? And any thoughts on that would be great from all of you guys. That might be my last question, and we'll move on.
So
I'll say the,
yeah,
go
sorry, go
ahead.
ahead,
Sorry.
William. No, 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 this time you go ahead.
I'll say there's twofold there. Does it give me hope that the tools exist? The tools like this almost like the discovery of fire. We can use it to warm ourselves. We can also use it to burn down our house. It's a tool. It's neither. So, but if you're saying, are we going to go faster than our adversary? I don't think that's ever going to happen. I think they're always going to be a bit faster than us. I think our power and our control is going to be in defensible systems that have control of that pipeline from shifting left all the way to the platform, and having those correct controls as a part of that deployment process is where our power lies. If we're just looking to go faster than them, I don't think that's ever going to be something that really happens. They're always going to be a little bit quicker. We just have to be, I don't know, instead of less fast, a lot more sturdy, a lot stronger, if that makes sense.
But my question, Will, I agree with you. I think it's not going to happen that we are going to be a step ahead of attackers, because that's their only job. For us, this is not the only job. Um, my question is, does 𝗬𝗲𝗲s give you hope that your code reviews can get better, faster with the speed of code generation, not with the speed of attackers? Keeping the speed of attackers away, at least at the rate at which your developers can spin out code, would you be able to say, I can actually scan it and review it with the same speed?
Yeah, I do think that that's one of the things. That's what I said with the fire. I think that will enhance. I think we all are seeing it ourselves. I don't know if you our guys are seeing it in your security tools, but we're seeing a lot of things that we have more visibility. But then that all goes back to, what do we do with that visibility now that it's found those vulnerabilities in your code? Are you actually remediating it? Are you using the tool to remediate it? But then that goes into the whole thing: is it hallucinating anything, and verifying that it's actually doing the right thing? Um, it
Yeah,
it'll make us faster, but it also make the job, in my opinion, actually a bit more complex, because you have to understand what
a
it's doing
hundred
as
percent.
well. Yes.
100, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's right on the, you hit right on the head. Um,
Can
we'll take a
I
quick
comment?
pause there. Sorry, yeah, sorry, Praveen, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just wanted a quick comment. Yes, I think method definitely brings a lot of hope. At the same time, it's short-term problem, long-term gain. I see that as a Y2K problem. Once again, we have tremendous amount of engineering debt
I agree.
built into our products. A lot of bugs are open right now, medium priorities. We don't look at it, and that becomes becoming going to be an issue. So at the same time, AI is giving us a lot of hope that we can fix all of those issues much faster. So I would say our current model of security review, our current model of human in the loop, or security, slow security, and fast development is not going to work. We had to adopt agentic for security and agentic for development both, so that both could go at the same pace. I think definitely attackers are going to be ahead of us. But if, as an organization, if you are behind the curve, not deploying agentic AI for all your processes, we'll be much, much behind the attackers. So definitely there's a huge pressure now for every organization to deploy more and more AI for not just for development, but also for security and remediation.
Awesome. Thank you, Praveen. I quickly want to open up to our audience at this point in time, to the panelists, and I thank you all the panelists. Praveen, Will, I would definitely ask you for a closing thoughts from each and every one of you, but I want to see if our audience have any questions at this point in time. Please post your questions. Um, and we'll have our panelists answer those questions for you. You can use either Q&A or chat. It's either is fine by me. And as our audience are typing in their questions, uh, Praveen, maybe quick thoughts from you as an innovator, successful founder of several companies. Uh, how are you, from an innovator's and founder's perspective, looking at solving this foundation issue, rigor over speed? How do you think to solve this for uh, people like Sumit and Will, as an example, our audience who are on this uh, uh, panel? I mean, sorry, in the webinar.
Yeah, sure. I would say, as I already said, some of those things, but uh, AI is definitely now the debate about rigor versus speed is pretty much over with methods coming in. Is making it very clear that we got to go fast, speed wise. There's no other choice left. And So what we, as my tell my engineering team, adopt more AI as much as AI as possible, but also I tell my security team to make sure they're also not behind the curve. They are also adopting as much as possible AI and agentic in their security reviews and infrastructure practices as well. So secure by design is another principle we are looking at as well. In terms of agentic and all the new way of doing code development now, there's something called you can build the security in agent just by single one line of code. So we as the new code techniques are coming out, AI is solving the big problem already. With now we have agents that can govern themselves. Every action of agents is monitored by agent itself, right? So that way, securities are coming to AI is coming to help not only development but also security.
We have a pressing question that a lot of youngsters today coming into the market are asking. So one of the attendees asked, and I want to ask each of you, real quick because we are running out of time. Sorry. With this AI market evolving, what are your thoughts in terms of the job market? If there is, that's question number one. There is a second part to that question. I can repeat this question if need be, but if there is top three skills or job profiles you can share, what will be those that is still going to be alive with this market? Thoughts?
That's an interesting question that actually very relevant, and things that we struggle with, like as we are trying to hire more people, and like what's the skill set that you should be looking for when you're hiring an expert or in their field. So I think that fundamentally has not changed, right? I see the AI tools coming in and enabling the various teams, whether it's infosec development and others, but your basic tool set, the basic skill set that's required for infosec is not going to change. Your knowledge, depending on what area or expertise you're trying to go in, whether it is security, privacy, and within security, again, these are all the different niche areas, cloud security, AppSec, those fundamentally are not changing. They're, in my opinion, still be the same. Like you have to have that skill set to be able to respond to those things as and when there is that human in the middle thing, right? We have to understand that that's uh, not going to be human in the middle is not the goal or objective to be able to review each and every piece of code coming in, but there is still that human aspect in there, and that for that particular piece, when you have to rely back on a human, those fundamental skill sets are not changing. So those are still very much, at least from the infosec perspective, in demand. So yeah, I'll leave it at that thought. I don't know if there's like a top three skills I can call out, but I think that that's the way that we are still approaching and hiring people uh, and using these tools as enablers.
Cool. Thank you, Sumit. Will Praveen, any on your mind
Yes,
on top
sure.
three skills you guys think of? Yeah.
Yeah. As you know, the popular quote saying that, right, from Jensen, that AI is not going to replace your job. People who knows AI are going to replace your job, right? So what I
Yeah.
see in the even the fresh engineers also, I see that they know AI at a surface level. They're not getting into agentic level and making it, how do you do your work with like 4 agents running or 10 agents running right under you. So you have to become more and more AI expert, especially at junior level jobs, right? You have to go deeper into the AI, not just programming, but also even management, even the your business side, or how do you run your sales organization without having 10 people, right? How do you build your own 10 agents that can do the job without programming, right? You can do all those. There's so many tools available to do your job in a much faster, more efficient way. So more you know AI, better it is. The pressure is very high on the junior people right now because of the, that's getting replaced by AI tools. But in the new crops of people, they need to just learn more and more AI. I would say you have been top 20% of those 100 students that's getting graduated right now. If you're in top 20%, you'll definitely get a very good job.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
I'm
Praveen.
finding very difficult to, when I get a lot of fresh graduate resumes, you can
Yeah.
see that they know very surface level of AI, not much deeper level of AI. How to automate your work, right? Not just with
Yeah.
ChatGPT. Yeah.
Yeah. Will, anything from you?
I'll keep it short. Systems level thinking is not something that's being replaced by AI, at least today. That understanding of how systems should work internally and with other systems. That overall picture and that human understanding is not something that, at least in my opinion, can be replaced as of now. And if I was to say anything to younger people, is to have that be able to understand how the system should and does work. And that's something, you don't need to write the best piece of code necessarily anymore, but you need to understand what good looks like and how it should work.
All right. And I would just like to go back and add, again, I think, as I said, same thing that William echoed essentially is like what I said, that fundamental knowledge is not changing. That has to be the case. But with that, I do acknowledge, and, when we are hiring, we are looking for people that understand or can interact with AI tools. The prompt engineering, so to speak, has to come. And that is definitely an add-on skill that you cannot do without in today's age.
Yeah, right. Context engineering, harness engineering, two things that are not going to go away. But anyway, so it's been a great panel. Sumit, Will, and Praveen, I really, really appreciate your thoughts. Sorry we ran out of time. I mean, this is a great topic. Could have ran longer, but I really, really appreciate all of your thoughts, your time, and thank you guys, and have a wonderful afternoon. See you guys later. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for having us here. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
It's a pleasure.